Iran challenged the US. That was a mistake. Bombs and missiles flew, and Iran's entire fleet was wiped out in just 2 days. After initial American and Israeli strikes on Iran wiped out a huge chunk of country's leadership, Iran responded.
Okay, the US said, "We see your base attacks and will raise you with the destruction of your entire naval fleet." US Tomahawks flew in an operation that overwhelmed any strategy that Iran's Navy had, and the results speak for themselves.
Iran has lost 11 of its warships, along with several of its attack submarines.
This successful vertical launch system firing demonstrates the fleet's ongoing readiness and capability in the region.
In a few minutes, we're going to explain how the U.S. left Iran's entire Navy crippled in just 48 hours.
The USS Coronado, deployed to the 7th Fleet, represents a crucial element of naval power projection. That's according to the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, which took to X to explain what it pulled off in just 2 days.
2 days ago, the Iranian regime had 11 ships in the Gulf of Oman. Today, they have zero.
There's a hint here. There's a hint here about why the U.S. took aim at Iran's Navy. We'll get into it later. But the big news here is that some of Iran's most...
And we don't have to take CENTCOM's word for it. Satellite photographs are already emerging that showcase the scale of the damage that America's strikes have caused. The Iris Makran, which is Iran's first forward-based ship, is down. That vessel was struck while it was moored in Bandar Abbas, Naval News reports.
A Jamran-class corvette that was stationed at a pier in Chabahar has also been taken out. Armed with anti-ship and certainly,
Iran has 6 of them, and at least one now stuck at Konarak Naval Base with smoke streaming out of it. The list goes on and on.
Is now blanketed in a smog of thick, black smoke, following America's heavy bombing campaign. The remains of the Iris Makran,
referred to by WION as a mothership, the vessel has been used by Iran to launch drones at U.S. bases in Gulf countries.
What we've seen over the past 48 hours is what weapons built for war can do when they target commercial ships converted for war.
The UK Defence Journal adds that the Iris Shahid Bagheri has also been converted to launch and retrieve helicopters, making it
It might be a little bit of a stretch, at least when comparing the Iris Shahid Bagheri to U.S. carriers such as the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Already reeling, Iran's regime would have been wondering how it could get any worse during the 48 hours unleashed.
lines. The Telegraph explains, reporting, U.S. forces have also mostly destroyed the headquarters of the Iranian naval fleet in the port.
So Iran has lost its entire fleet in the Gulf of Oman. Its naval headquarters has been devastated, and one of its...
And there will be Iranians of a certain age who will feel a massive sense of déjà vu right now. Iran has been...
This has to feel like Operation Praying Mantis, onto with a major twist that we'll explain if you stick with us.
during the late 1970s and into the 80s, Iran made a habit of attacking the U.S.
The U.S. launched the Desert One rescue mission, which failed catastrophically and left 8 U.S. service members dead.
In 1983, an Iranian suicide bomber killed 241 U.S. Marines and sailors in Beirut.
And 4 years later, the U.S. experienced more Middle East humiliation when an Iraqi jet attacked the USS Stark, killing 37 U.S. sailors.
Then came April 18, 1988.
Operation Praying Mantis was launched. In a matter of hours, the U.S. destroyed a pair of Iranian oil platforms.
Note the word was. Operation Praying Mantis will feel like a picnic compared to what just happened to Iran's Navy. Now here's the twist.
Iran has been preparing for this type of fight with the United States ever since Operation Praying Mantis. They came up with a plan to overwhelm American ships with swarms of fast attack boats.
Knowing that it couldn't stack up to the U.S. on the pure naval firepower front, Iran had developed a layered and asymmetric strategy. But nothing went according to Iran's plan.
And the reason why is that Iran had been preparing for an attack like Operation Praying Mantis, and the US delivered something entirely different.
Iran's biggest problem during America's 48-hour blitz of its Navy was that it never saw the particular tactics that the US used coming.
Iran had planned for what amounted to a ship-to-ship fight, which is where its fast attack boats would have a chance to excel. Stuck in those waters, America's ships would be sitting ducks for the missiles launched from the fast boats, along with torpedoes fired by submarines. Iranian warships haven't been able to get close to what the US has sent to the Persian Gulf region, because military
Iran ended up bringing a knife to a gunfight, and the US said, screw you. America wasn't about to play the fast boat game. Its strategy was simple and utterly devastating.
But in 2026, as part of Operation Epic Fury, the US unleashed Tomahawk cruise missiles at Iran's navy.
Those missiles have a much longer standoff range than anything that Iran expected the US to use, which means the warships in conflict will not move. The Iris Makron was a casualty of this very strategy, as Tomahawk missiles launched from hundreds of miles away.
Those Tomahawks were likely launched by the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers that Iran expected to be getting up close and personal with its fast attack boats.
Iran was waiting for America's warships to arrive so that it could put its naval doctrine into practice. What it got was a horde of...
Then there was the follow-up. Max Afterburner explains in his examination of America's 48 hours of epic fury, stating,
"This was a genius strategy by the US. It subverted Iran's expectations by striking Iran's warships from afar.
And it led to America negating every tactic that Iran had in just 48 hours. As the US...
Iran has flaunted this asymmetric naval force of missile, midget submarines, naval mines, and anti-ship..."
The mention of the Strait of Hormuz brings us back to what we mentioned about Iran's strategy of constricting US warships, and why it all fell apart for the regime. However, what we're now seeing may not quite be what you think you're seeing. On the surface, America's firestorm of
That's according to Dr. Andreas Bohm, expert on the Middle East. If you compare their navy with Donald Trump's big, beautiful armada, it's more like a dwarf. He adds, "It's been very much weakened by sanctions, its material is outdated, and when you look at the Air Force, for example, most..."
So what the US just pulled off wasn't really about weakening Iran's military, merely because that military and its navy...
What America's 48-hour strikes are really all about is making sure that the Strait of Hormuz can be... The US needs that strait to stay open, as does most of the rest of the world. And the reason why is that the Strait of Hormuz...
Iran may not be capable of presenting much of a kinetic threat to the US, Bohm declares. But what they are capable of is asymmetric warfare.
On the crude oil front, The Guardian reports that about 20% of all crude oil shipments have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz at some point.
This single passage of water is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and Iran has been trying to take advantage of that fact.
The strait is closed. If anyone tries to pass, the heroes of the Revolutionary Guard and the regular Navy will set those ships ablaze.
Jabari has also claimed that Iran will start attacking oil pipelines in the coming days, and he claims that the price of oil will reach $200 per barrel.
Maintaining control requires warships, even if they are just the fast attack boats that Iran deploys. The US has just taken those ships out of the equation.
Cappy Army says that though some ships are going down and trying to pass through, total transits via the strait are down by 80%.
This has always been their greatest leverage, geopolitically speaking, to inflict maximum pain on global markets. Not that you would know that if you listen to Iran's propagandists. They've already claimed that Iran unleashed a hailstorm of ballistic missiles against the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Iran has also unleashed around 400,000 drones against Gulf states, such as Qatar. And
it's all starting to feel like what we're seeing right now was the dying gasp of a regime that is trying to project power as everything that it's built falls apart.
The hardest hits are yet to come from the US military, Rubio declares, adding that the US has done what it's done so far to destroy the imminent threat.
But for Iran's regime, the damage has already been done to a navy that was expected to put up far more of a fight than it has.
And deep in the heart of Moscow, there is one man who will be watching everything that is happening with increasing levels of distress.